Now I'm going to take a very quick look at this poem. It's called Nettles. It's by the writer, the poet Vernon Scannell. It's an interesting poem. Lots of nature imagery. The whole poem is really an extended metaphor. It's got a narrative approach. He tells a story in it. Okay, let's go through it. So, again, talk about language. You know to be aware of language. It's an interesting poem. It has rhyming. So we have spears shed tears, saw skin raw, grin blade it, parade lit dead, rain shed again. So while there is rhyming, it does not follow a particular rhyming scheme, and that's why you call it an irregular rhyming scheme. In other words, he does rhyme, but he doesn't follow a particular pattern. Okay, then you look at the meter, and if you look at the let's pick random lines, okay? So let's pick this line, this line, this line, and this line, okay? Let's read them. Are you ready? Bed seemed a curious name for those green spears. 10 syllabic beats. White blisters beaded on his tender skin. 10 syllabic beats. Till not a nettle in that fierce parade. 10 syllabic beats. Had called up tall recruits behind the shed. Every line of the poem has 10 syllabic beats. It's written in iambic pentameter. So what does that mean? Meter means beat. Pent means 5. Iamb is a pair of syllables. Now it's more complicated than that, but let's keep it simple. We're doing our junior cycle. So you've got, where there's 10 syllabic beats, you've got 5 pairs of beats. And the writer has deliberately designed every line to have 5 pairs of beats. And the fact that he does that means that the poem has a rhythm and a fluency. And that's something you can talk about in terms of language. Okay, so as I said, this is a narrative poem. And it tells a story. It tells a story of the writer's son going in behind the shed and then getting stung by nettles. Let's have a look. Bed seemed a curious name for those green spears, that regiment of spite behind the shed. It was no place for rest. Talking about the idea of, because you say a nettle bed, that's the phrase you use, but he's saying you wouldn't rest in there. With sobs and tears, the boy came seeking comfort, and I saw white blisters beaded on his tender skin. I definitely would learn that quote if you're doing this poem. It's a lovely quote. I love the sibilance. That's the repeated S sound. So saw, blisters, skin, and then you have the alliteration of blisters beaded. So I'll write that down. Sibilance and alliteration. And the combination of those things creates a vivid image. We can see the blisters, the adjective noun combination. So the blisters, that's a noun. Bloody hell, sorry, no. That's a noun. And then white is the adjective. So the combination of the adjective noun, the alliteration, the sibilance creates a vivid image. We can see the boy, he's after getting stung, and it's basically what's happened. When you get a sting from nettles, you get your skin basically has like an allergic reaction. We soothed him till his pain was not so raw. Now, I think that's a really important line in the poem. I'm going to mark it and I'm going to say it's a learner. To soothe is to try, like a soother you give a baby, to take away the pain. At last he offered us a watery grin, so it's a lovely image, isn't it? The child go, oh, he's after being crying. And then I took my hook and honed the blade. Now again, lovely use of alliteration with hook and honed. And went outside and slashed it and slashed in fury with it. A lovely line that captures movement and more than movement. Like there's an anger there. He's acting in fury. The verb choice slashed is very violent. He's talking about he went down and he cut the nettles down. Now why is he so angry? He's angry because they hurt his son. They made his son cry, and he loves his son. And suddenly you realise that this poem isn't really about nettles at all. Nettles are symbolic of the, the danger and the sources of pain that are out there in the world. And as a parent, your instinct, not that many of you will think this is true, a parent has an instinct always, and that's to protect their child. That's the parent's instinct, to protect their child. And when something threatens that child, you get angry, you get defensive. So his child was harmed, and he went out and he honed his hook. So that's the instrument he was using to cut up the nettles, and he slashed them with fury. And suddenly his reaction makes sense when you think about the idea of the parent-child relationship. Till not a nettle in that fierce parade stood upright anymore. Next task, I lit a funeral pyre to burn the fallen dead. Very dramatic language, He's like he butchered them, and then like he sawed them off. He's like it's a war, and you will not harm my child. And he slaughtered the enemy, and then he burnt them. But 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, the busy sun and rain had called up tall recruits behind the shed. My son would often feel sharp wounds again. And those last three lines are really important. If I was studying this poem, I would learn them. And you understand, if you didn't understand it before you read this poem, that the whole poem is a metaphor. Yeah, you're right if your teacher told you that that's a reference to nature and its wonderful resilience. And you could talk about it in terms of how human beings interact with nature, and we're destructive. We destroy nature, but nature will always return and grow. So no matter how hard he slashed those nettles, and no matter how he burned them, there's something there that will always return. So it's a tribute to that resilience of nature, and that nature's ability to rebound from our incredibly damaging actions. And there is no doubt that environmental message is there in the poem, makes it interesting. But for me, it's much deeper than that. You can't protect your kids from all of the dangers in the world. You just can't. No matter how much you try, no matter how fierce you are, how hard you fight, your kid's going to get hurt. Your kid's going to grow up and go out into the world, and your kid's going to get hurt. And there's nothing you can do about it. And that's what that last section represents. The poet's awareness that no matter how much he tries to protect his child, he won't ever be able to protect the child completely, because part of life is nettles. Getting stung and feeling the pain, that's part of life. That's the metaphor. So there you go. I hope you found that little analysis interesting. It's a really good poem, Nettles. I haven't taught it in years. I was talking to somebody who said that they're studying it, and so I thought I'd do a little video on it. And again, if you're doing a poem like that, remember, go on then and have a look at a question and ask yourself, right, if I was to ask, if I was to answer this question, I had to read this poem to my class and explain why I believe they would enjoy it. Would I be able to get 2 or 3 paragraphs out of that? What does the poet bring to life in the poem, and what words or phrases are most effective in it? What topics or themes are addressed in that poem, and then why do you find their work impressive? Are there any powerful thoughts and feelings expressed in that poem? And what do you find interesting about the language? And use your rights rules, or whatever your teacher calls it, PQE or RIC, whatever. But you make a point, put the quotation in, explain your point, and move on. And you will be grand in your junior cycle. Hope you found that useful. If you did, give it one of them, will you? Thank you.